In this widely anticipated finale of the Equalizer series, our favorite retired U.S. Marine and DIA officer, Robert McCall, takes us on a brand new thrilling international adventure across Italy. A scene of complete and total destruction meets Lorenzo Vitale as he drives to an isolated winery in Sicily. Asking his young son to stay in the car, he arms himself and enters the building. Inside, he witnesses a similar scene of death everywhere before finally reaching the basement, where two of his security guards have Robert McCall at gunpoint. Robert tells him that he intends to take back something that doesn't belong to Lorenzo. Impressed that Robert was able to track him down, Lorenzo warns him that he will not be leaving the winery alive. Robert counters by challenging Lorenzo's safety in the next 9 seconds. True to his word, after 9 seconds, Robert smartly ends all the guards using the weapon of one of them. Lorenzo is brutally shot as well, but remains stubborn enough to try and crawl to his escape. Robert follows him with another weapon and ultimately delivers the final shot. Going after what he came for, Robert then grabs a bunch of keys from Lorenzo's belt. A while later, Lorenzo's son manages to take a hit at Robert's back when he is leaving. When Robert turns around to retaliate, the boy drops his weapon and flees. On his drive back, Robert eventually passes out and is found by one of the local police, Gio Bonucci. In Altamonte, a lovely coastal town, Gio helps the local doctor, Enzo Arisio, patch Robert up. When he wakes up a while later, he is unable to answer Enzo's question about whether it was a good man or a bad man that they had saved. Nonetheless, Enzo carefully oversees Robert's recovery over the next couple of days, and on the 3rd day, Robert is finally healthy enough to look around town. At a local cafe, the owner and waitress, Amina, serves him their best coffee, despite him having ordered a tea. She insists that he would forget tea once he tasted their coffee. Later, Gio gets to the cafe on his regular visit with his daughter, Gabby, and meets Robert. While Amina entertains his daughter, Gio assures Robert that he is amidst good people. He then hands over the keys to his car, saying that he hadn't yet checked Robert's bags. Back at Enzo's place, Robert anonymously calls the financial operations group of the CIA and speaks to Agent Emma Collins. He tells her about the strange winery in Sicily that was apparently importing wine from Syria. Robert spends the next few days getting to know the locals and various business owners in the marketplace. He also notices that members of a gang harass and threaten everyone over their earnings and demand regular payments as well. One day, he hears Angelo, a local seafood seller, getting beaten up by one of the gang members, Marco Quaranta. He sees the gang leave the store after yet another threat from Marco about coming back next week to collect the money. The next day, Robert visits Angelo's store as a favor to Enzo. Kind-natured Angelo refuses payment from Robert, stating that it was his honor that Enzo's friend had come over to his shop for the first time. Meanwhile, following Robert's tip-off, a team of CIA agents, including Emma, discover not just illegal narcotics, but millions in cash at the winery in Sicily. Considering that these were activities of a group that wasn't even on their radar, Emma and her colleague, Frank Conroy, decided to keep looking for any information they could find. After inspecting Robert's healed wound one rainy day, Enzo assures him that not knowing whether or not one is a good person is indeed a sign of a good person. He says that it was why neither he nor Gio officially reported Robert's accident when they found and treated him. Elsewhere, Marco's brother Vincent reminds him that they have grand plans for the commercialization of the town of Altamonte, with new resorts and casinos to be set up there. Intending to showcase an example to the rest of the town, Marco and his gang set fire to Angelo's shop one day, while the town can do nothing but helplessly watch. Robert sees the gang waiting a little away from the shop, and later helps Angelo clean up with the rest of the town. Meanwhile, Gio looks into the recording from the fire and officially lodges an inquiry about the van that was seen outside Angelo's shop. With time, Robert becomes part of the locals as he gets to know more of them. On one such routine day, when Robert is at Amina's cafe, peacefully having his tea, he notices Emma there. Having finally tracked him down, she tries asking why and how he had precise information about the winery's real business. While he sticks to giving her vague answers, he also says that he sincerely wishes he could just tell her everything. When she leaves, he is pleasantly surprised to know that she already knows his name. Meanwhile, when Gio goes to Gabby's school to pick her up that day, he gets a strange call saying her school was over a bit earlier than the other kids. When he asks her teacher, he is informed that an officer picked Gabby up just a while back. Gio rushes home to find his wife and daughter held captive by Marco and his men. In retaliation for Gio's inquiry into their van, Marco attacks him while his family is made to watch. After threatening the life of his family if Gio were to interfere in their business again, the gang leaves. When Robert sees Gio leave Enzo's office later that day, patched up with a few bandages, he asks the doctor, "What is happening?" Enzo tells him that such incidents were common in several towns due to the criminal organization called the Camorra, or what is more commonly known as the Italian Mafia. He says that Marco's gang is a part of the Camorra too, and that this was a problem that didn't really have a solution. Meeting Emma at a church one day, Robert asks if she believes in miracles, answering that she didn't. She also tells him that she wasn't afraid of him, even if he was almost a ghost that nobody knew much about. She confirms that the Sicilian farmer, Lorenzo Vitale, had been on Interpol's most wanted list for a decade, and that his operation was quite huge in itself, since terrorists used his farm for smuggling. Curious as to why he picked her to give that anonymous tip, Emma asks about his intentions. He sidetracks the conversation by saying that what she should instead be focusing on was why Sicily was being targeted for these smuggling activities. Promising to find the answer soon, Emma expresses her hope to know the answer to her original question in their next meeting. That evening, Marco interrupts Gio's family dinner at a restaurant. He tells him that he had to approach the Somali family and arrange a few of their boats for the gang. When he spots Robert seated at a table across the room, he goes over and warns him to stay away from that which doesn't concern him. Saying that he doesn't appreciate threats, Robert asks Marco to take his friends and go someplace else with their business simply because he has begun liking Altamonte and its people. When he doesn't take Robert's words seriously, Marco gets close to no warning when a sensitive nerve on his hand gets pressed on. Robert's pain compliance strategy lets him have Marco order his men to leave. He also gets Marco to leave him his weapon. Later that night, Robert fights Marco and a couple of his guys and ultimately finishes them. Frank calls Emma from Rome one morning to let her know about the latest station bombing. It had been found that the money from the narcotics was being used for similar terrorist activities. She tells Frank that while in Naples, she will look into getting more information from the inner groups to ultimately nab the wholesalers of the narcotics. Meanwhile, the chief of police of Naples visits Vincent and lets him know of the arrival of the CIA after his meeting with Emma. He suggests that Vincent stop all his activities, as he believes Emma will soon find out that the Camorra was involved in buying from their own enemies for the sake of a flourishing business. Telling him that he will handle things with Emma, Vincent then slices off the chief's hand and threatens him to focus on finding out who was responsible for ending Marco's life instead. Elsewhere, Emma answers Robert's call and is told that the Camorra is behind the ongoing illegal activities. While talking to him, she narrowly escapes being a serious bombing victim of Vincent's plan to take her down as yet another deadly bomb goes off. She is immediately taken to the hospital to mend her injuries, where Frank assures her that he will undertake the rest of her work that evening. Having grabbed Gio and his family as leverage, Vincent proclaims to the town of Altamonte to reveal the person responsible for Marco's death. He shoots at Gio's ear and threatens to end him with his next shot if he isn't honestly given the answer that he is looking for. Just as he threatens Gio with his family, Vincent is interrupted by Robert's arrival. Repeating what he had told Marco, he says that Vincent cannot take away the peace Robert had found in the town and among the locals of Altamonte. He appeals to Vincent to let the others go and deal with him, since he is the one responsible for Marco's end. As arrogant as his brother, Vincent replies that he is entitled to steal whatever he decides is right. He adds that ending Robert's life in the town square, where his beloved locals could watch him, was extremely fitting. He says that it would be another great example to show what happens to people who mess with him and the Camorra. When Robert visits Emma, she expresses her gratitude for having saved her life. Dropping the bags of cash he had brought along with him, he tells Emma of a guy named Dyer, who had lost his pension due to a cyber attack. Emma then realizes that Robert had followed the trail of the attack to the winery in Sicily, finished all of Lorenzo's men, including Lorenzo, grabbed the keys to the vault, and them had taken exactly as much cash as was owed to Dyer. When she asks if he is a friend, Robert says that they had met just once. When Emma leaves Italy, she goes to Boston to drop the bundle off to Dyer and his wife. Relieved at not having to lose their house, the couple thanks Emma and wonders why a stranger would go to such lengths for them. Emma takes their leave, saying that she would love to know the reason as well. Back at work at the CIA one day, Emma receives a package with her mother's diary and a note from Robert. It is then revealed that Emma was the daughter of Brian and Susan Plummer. Robert's CIA friend. The movie closes with scenes of merriment as the town of Altamonte celebrates their football team's victory, and Robert joins in on the fun as one of the locals.